everyone. Welcome to the Solar and Storage Market Series. My name is Erez Dolev, and I'm the Managing Director here at RENVU. Today, we're going to be hearing from Kyle Pease, a Senior Engineer here at RENVU, about RENVU's advanced online design and quote generating tool. Kyle will show us how to create complicated quotes with full bill of materials in just a few minutes. You will have the opportunity to ask questions using the Q&A feature of Zoom. Participants in today's webinar will receive, in addition to any RENVU promotions, $250 for every $5,000 or higher order created with the design and quote tool by the end of the month. But before we dive in and while we're waiting for more people to join, I'd like to give a little background on RENVU and some of the products and services we offer here. RENVU is a US-based solar equipment distributor. We have been in the industry since 2012, and we currently have fulfillment facilities and offices in California, New Jersey, and Texas. Our sales staff all have background within engineering and solar installation. Here are a few products we would like to spotlight. We have plenty of Runergy Hyperion modules in stock, including the 410 Black, 550s, and 575 modules. We are offering the 410 watt at 25 cents per watt when you're purchasing a full truckload. We carry the full solar portfolio as well as Fortress Power, HomeGrid, Soluna, Discover, Renon, and Growat batteries. We stock the Solarc L3 commercial battery banks, which pair perfectly with the three-phase 30K and 60K inverters. We are offering now free shipping and 20% off when you purchased online. We carry the new Enphase Encharge 10T batteries, as well as the legacy Encharge 10 and the Encharge 5P. We carry the complete Enphase IQ8 series and offering special pricing on the IQ8 MC and the IQ8 HC with the domestic content. If you're looking for T-gaskets to make solar array watertight, Blick here offers several options to fit different module gap sizes. Contact our team if you're like sample of any of them. Last thing is that we are offering the Lumin ABP Smart Panel. If you're looking for something like that, we still have them, and we're happy to send the quote with a special offer that we have on those. We have 384 Kohler 2.5 kilowatt hour batteries available, and we're offering them at just $39 per kilowatt hour. If you're looking for batteries, this is a great opportunity. We're trying to clear those, so we're selling them way below cost. We've partnered with two financing companies. Credit Key offers credit lines up to $50,000 with approval in just a few minutes. With a review of 3 months of bank statement, that limit can be increased to as much as $250,000. Build is another financing option specifically designed for CNI projects. Your credit line is approved based on a specific CNI project, but you can also use the funds for other business purchases. Also, Build offers a 0.5% rebate on purchases made with RENVU. So next time you have a CNI project, we recommend reaching out to us, and we'll help to establish that line of credit with them. Here's our bulk module price list for large volume options and our upcoming offerings of solar modules. We carry Runergy mainly, but also Zenshine, Canadian Solar, Q-Cells, Hyundai, Telsun, and more. We're sharing in the chat a link to this page, and we update it regularly so you can see pricing changes in the market, availability, and yeah, you can plan ahead based on quantities there. I'd like to take a minute here also to mention the Blicky residential carport. This is a great way to expand existing solar systems or alternative solution where you cannot install solar on roof. and when customers are looking for a little bit more of added values to the system. Let me start a short version of the installation video here. The carport is designed to be assembled by a small crew. It doesn't require any specialized or heavy machinery to install. This is a solar structure, so it's eligible for the 30% ITC and possibly the extra 10% for US made products. It is modules and inverters agnostic, and it is designed and fabricated in the US and made from US sourced galvanized steel and comes with 25-year warranty. The structure is coming with a Texas Structural Engineer PE stamp. You can install up to 24 solar modules with 4 columns of 6 modules. A 2-car carport will generate about 10 kilowatt hour, 10 kilowatt power, sorry. You can use residential and commercial modules with it, with load capacities of up to 48 pounds per square foot of snow, 215 miles per hour wind load, and seismic design category F. We're sharing a link to the full version of this video in the chat, and we'll also add it to the follow-up email. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the Q&A section that Zoom has, and we'll get to the questions at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. You can also email our sales team at info@renvu.com. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a link in a follow-up email in case you want to share it with another team member or go over it again. We also have recordings of previous webinars on the RENVU YouTube channel. And now I'll hand it over to Kyle, and we can get started with the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Aris. So yeah, I'll give an overview of the design tool, and then I'll go into a couple cost comparison examples and some finer points when using the tool. And then I'll open it up to the Q&A. We also have some Q&As emailed in, so folks watching the recording will get to your questions at the end as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so I'm going to show our home page, and let's make it full screen. There we are. Okay, so this is the home page, renvu.com. To get to the design tool, you can either hit this top bar here or the image down below. And this is on our new website platform through Shopify. I think it's objectively a better tool all around now. We're still making some adjustments to it. So if you guys have any suggestions or feedback or questions, we really love that stuff. We're definitely in the new iteration of the design phase for this tool. And it's been really satisfying to see how much faster it is and how much more flexibility we had than in the past. So let's get right to it. I'll click on this image here and we'll be right into the tool. And on the first page of the tool, we have an option to choose between a full system or a subset where you can select solar panels, racking, inverters. If you deselect any of those, it won't give you those in the quote, for instance. So there's that option there. If you already have something lined up or are sourcing it separately, you can make that selection there. And then on to the next page in the design tool, we have to choose our panels, and it defaults to generally our most popular residential module, which happens to be the Runner-G 405 watt black on black. It'll give you the price per module and the dollar per watt below that. So you have a way to compare the relative cost between modules. And we have a new feature where we can display those promotions you might get through email. They'll also show up here, so it'll remind you where you could have some additional savings as well as you're making your decisions. So in addition to the Runner-G 405s, there's the commercial 545s, 550s, and some higher wattage N types there, as well as the tail suns. When the modules we have in stock have short leads. We'll make a note in our system and it'll populate with these DC extension cables. I wanted to point this out since if you're getting a system with MLPEs, rapid shutdown devices, microinverters, optimizers, you're going to want those DC extension cables. If you're doing a standard string inverter system with no MLPEs, we can go ahead and clear those off the quote. Just you can either clear it in your cart or you can email in with your proposal number, and one of my team members can help take care of that for you as well. So we're going to leave it at the Renogy 405s for this quick overview example, and then we're on to racking. So you can choose between a pitched roof, flat roof, carport, and ground mount. And under each of these, there are sub options. For pitched roof, you can choose between comp shingle, Spanish tile, and you'll see the roof attachment change as I make the selection change there. So you can get an idea of what the different components are for each of the selection options. Under metal roof, there's a additional option to choose your sheeting profile. And these are from S5, so you can even go over to S5's manufacturer selection tool, look at your sheeting profile specifically and get the specific SKU you might need for that uh, if you have a metal roof there. So lots of options, and some of them, they might not come up on the tool under these. There's some sub options you can even email in and write in the specific SKU you need, and we can get that quote updated for you. Then under flat roof, there's the ballasted system with the Iron Ridge BX mounts. You can have a tilt leg penetrating mount with Iron Ridge as well, and then tilt legs on a metal roof is another option under those flat roof selections. There's the carports that Ares was talking about. If you want to have more than 2 car spaces, you can increase that number and you will get additional carports. Every 2 car spaces is a carport and it'll share center columns. That's a neat option there. And then for ground mount, we offer the Iron Ridge SGA system, which goes onto 2 or 3-inch pipe. You need to punch in your wind speed and snow loads. If you don't know those, I do recommend once you're getting serious about a quote, go talk to your HJ, your county, your city, or whatever municipality is going to sign off on your permit, and make sure that for your project site, you have a good idea of what you need for your loading requirements. But if you're just getting a ballpark of what your project is going to cost, don't worry too much about that for now, and you can get a number. The racking overall in the system isn't the major cost of the system. And then if you're looking for a quick install of a ground mount system on some open space, the power field tubs are great for that as well. So I highly recommend you check those out. If you're not sure what anything is, you can click on these items here on the left. It'll bring up a separate item page. You'll get access to the data sheet, install manual, and the item description so you can figure out how each part in the system works. Great way to learn as you go. Bump back over to the design tool here. Okay, so we're going to look at a pitched roof comp shingle. This is by far the most common configuration. You can set in your number of arrays. So if you have multiple separate arrays on a roof, you can increase that number and have that second array there. For this, we're just going to do a single array, and we'll do 3 rows of 8, because I'm going to use this as an example down the road. And I'm going to put everything in portrait. I like, whenever possible, to put systems in portrait, since it is the most efficient for racking materials and minimizes the number of roof attachments for the array that you need to put in. So 3 rows of 8 for 24 modules, which is a 9.7 kilowatt DC array. And then you can choose, there's a roof attachment style you can change between Flashfoot 2 and Halo Ultra Grip. Some of you installers might know those Halo Ultra Grips. They're real handy. If you don't quite hit right on a rafter, you can put in a couple extra screws and be good to go. So I do like to point that out. And then span in feet is the distance between rafters. When you change this number, basically what it's going to do is increase or decrease the number of roof attachments that you're going to have in the system. And I do also want to point out this bill of materials is using some default assumptions. If you are real set on a design and you want to double check it excuse me, all right, to sanity check it, we can bump over to Iron Ridge. They have a design tool that is very sophisticated and will be a way to get a, a more detailed, a more detailed list of the items as well as some preliminary engineering drawings, and then also your pipe length, because you're going to need to source the 2 or 3 inch ground mount pipe uh, locally for that. But also, even if you're not doing a ground mount, Iron Ridge is really handy. You can make a pitched roof, flat roof system as well. So go and double check any of the components there once you're settled on a design, just to make sure it's matching what you need, especially if you aren't familiar with these components. All right, so once we made our selections in the racking, we're going to jump over to the inverters section. You can choose between microinverters, optimizers, and string inverters. Under microinverters, there's the full lineup of N-phase. The IQ8MCs, those are the ones that are on sale right now. If you get a full pallet of those 405s, we'll take $30 off per micro. So um, we'll also list if there's any other sales under specific microinverters. You could see those come up here as well. You can choose your micro, and then if you want energy storage, yes or no, you can punch that in there, and you'll get an option of batteries. And then if we look at the others, the selection options under string inverters, again, you get the battery backup. Then as well, if you have a commercial system, if you're looking for 3-phase, there is the 208 and 480 volt options there with or without backup. So if you want backup, Growatt, Solarc, Fortress all have the battery backup options under each of these 3-phase. If you don't want the backup, Selectria is our go-to for 3-phase grid tie systems. And then choose your inverter here. And a nice feature with our new design tool, let me leave it under, there we go, residential, there we are. Okay, so under Solarc, you'll see we have a lot of active promotions, which is really handy. It shows up right in the design tool here. It looks like I need to update a few of those. I think that offer is still valid though. And then we have the batteries that you can add on to that storage or off-grid inverter as well. And then actually at the very bottom of this page, you can also add in your rapid shutdown and your optimizers if you're needing those additionally. All right, so that is the inverter step. I'm going to leave it on the N-phase micro IQ8MC. You'll kind of notice as you're going through these selections here that the defaults are actually going to be the most commonly chosen and recommended. These IQ8MCs have a DC to AC ratio of 1.2, or right in that 1.25 range, which is optimal. So we've kind of designed the defaults to be the most common and most populars. Once we made our inverter selection, onto the final selections page, we have an option to add additional panels. I definitely recommend getting a couple extra panels. There's a number of reasons for it. We regularly get people come back after a year or 2, 3. They had a wayward frisbee, a branch come down and smash a panel, and they need a replacement. It's oftentimes kind of hard to find that drop-in replacement because the module dimensions and the electrical characteristics continue to change year over year. Additionally, if you have a shipment that the forklift drops a pallet or something, we have that bottom panel smashed. It's real slick if you already have that spare to pop into your system there, and we can send you a refund for that damaged module. Or if you have something broken or lost in install, it's real handy all around to make that install go smooth if you have those spares handy. And then balance the system, you can add in cables, connectors, and wire clips. Those are these grounding wire and the PV labels there. And then for energy storage systems, we offer the Lumen Smart Panel and EV chargers, so you can choose whether you want those or not. Once you've made all your selections, you get to the final quote page. On this quote page, you could review your bill of materials, quantities, pricing. You can also see all of the documents we have uploaded for each of the items here, data sheets, install manuals. So this is a really handy way to have a central point to collect all that information. If you're a DIYer or a newer installer looking to get your head wrapped around the system, download all these install manuals, read through them, and you'll have a real clear picture of what you got ahead of you for the install. Once you're happy with your selections here, or if you do need to make changes, just jump back to any of those sections. It'll save your selections. And then you can get back to this page once you've made those adjustments. You can either add it to the cart if you know what you're doing and you're happy with what's there. If you want to save the quote and maybe you have some questions, you want to know about availability or configuration, or if there's any discounts we might have listed that aren't added through our website, punch in your email here, get your add your zip code, and that'll give us a way to calculate shipping and tax. And then hit email me a quote, and you'll get a copy of that quote in PDF form with a quote number. That's into our back end system, so all of our sales engineers can look over it and let you know if there's any additional things to consider, or we proactively look through these quotes that are submitted in on a weekly basis. So we'll reach out if we have any availability or configuration concerns or any potential new promotions that come up that we want to make sure you're aware of. So it's a good way to stay connected there and have that quote saved in the system. Also, once you have that PDF, it's really handy for permitting. We have our permitting partner, Illumini. We've been working with them for years. They know how this process works real well. They'll get that quote as well as this basic permit form, which looks like this. It'll ask you some detailed questions about your site, about your AHJ, about your main panel, which you're going to have to answer in detail to make sure that they can accurately draft a plan set to then send on to your AHJ. So if you need permit drafting services, Illumini is really quick. We've been working with them for years. If you need any revisions, you send off the preliminary to the AHJ and they give you some red lines. Don't worry, just bring it back to Illumini and they'll get you any of those updated revisions pretty darn quickly. So you got that option there. And then it's also handy to have that PDF quote if you need financing for homeowners. We work with Lightstream, and then we have Credit Key and Build. REAP grants also you'd need to submit that PDF for approval as well. So yeah, I recommend getting that, adding that PDF into our system there so that you won't have to go regenerate it later. All right, so that is a basic overview of the design tool. And now I'm going to do a couple of comparison questions. Our tool, as you're making your selections through it, you'll see the bill of materials and the pricing dynamically changes as you make a selection. So I'm going to jump back to the racking and we're going to leave it at 24 modules. So it's a 9.7 kilowatt DC system, which is a decent size for a fully loaded 200 amp main panel. So Under the 120% rule, we have an article on our website about this here that goes over, depending on your main breaker and your bus bar rating, how many amps of solar you can back feed through that 120% rule. So you can have an inverter of 7.68 kilowatts. DC, so AC, that's going to be 7.68 kilowatts with that 1.25% or 1.25 DC to AC ratio. You're going to be up around 9 kilowatts or so for your DC array. So with this example, looking at let's see, we're going to compare a fully loaded 200 amp main panel. What's the most cost effective versus what's going to be um, maybe give you a little more features and functionality, potentially a higher return on investment at that same system size with all these different inverter selections you could choose from. So 7.6 kilowatts AC with this grow out min here. And let me make sure to clear we're not going to do battery backup for now. And I'm going to clear off the smart panel. Okay. So we have that grow out min, just a basic grid tied system on a comp shingle roof, 24 panels. You're looking at around $8,000 for that system there, and that is with rapid shutdown. So keep that number in mind. If you wanted module level monitoring, but still a string inverter, you could upgrade to the Tigo TS4A0s. You're looking at just under $9,000 for that functionality. Now, that's still running DC on your roof. Some people, they really like the microinverter option and prefer running AC up there. So then you can swap over to microinverters. IQ8 MCs, 24 of those. Each of those is 320 watts of max continuous. So if we have times 20, 24, yeah, 7.68. So that's a fully loaded main or a solar backfeed breaker with a 200 amp main panel and a 200 amp main breaker. Really common residential system there. And you're looking at around 12,000 for that arrangement. So there's a basic cost comparison of an economical string inverter versus a microinverter system and the optimizers as well. So the micros are going to cost more. A number of people prefer them for the level of support Enphase has and the module level optimization. If you're looking to save a bit of money but have similar functionality, I point folks towards the Grow Up Min 7.6 along with the Tigo optimizers. Now, the next add-on to this would be battery backup. So let's compare a 20 kilowatt hour battery backup system of the same size. If you want to have microinverters or a string inverter option, or some of these other string inverters are kind of, I would say, more of a premium option compared to Growwatt's definitely more of an economical, but they've been great as well. Solarc has more of a premium, high-end kind of following. So we'll look at both options there. Let's make sure that my selections make sense. All right, so we've got something going off on okay. A little glitch with our system here, bear with me. Let me jump over to, Arrow 19.8 kilowatt hour. Okay, so this is a standard 20, or roughly 20 kilowatt hour option to pair with the Grow Up Mins. It looks like our team's actually right now working on adding in these APX batteries, which are an equivalent, but we don't have all the details there. So Yeah, we're regularly updating this tool. Apologize for any confusion there, but yeah, we'll look at the arrows and we should have those APXs dialed in shortly here. So 20 kilowatt hours, the grow at 7.6. We've got about 17.6 grand on that arrangement. If we wanted to, this would be, I would say, our most economical option for a 20 kilowatt hour system. But let's see and compare it with Solarc, which would be I would say, our most premium. Solarc 8K, I think you can still backfeed to 200 amp main panel with a 200 amp main breaker. You just have to dial down the AC backfeed settings there. And then we'll choose a battery that's going to be 20 kilowatt hours. The Fortress eVault Max is just a hair under that 20 kilowatt hours, but it is the most cost effective. And there's another $250 applied at checkout. So this number is going to be a little higher than the actual checkout price. So we're looking at 18.6 for the Solarc there. And then we could compare that to the Growatt, which we're at 17.3. So pretty similar. And then under Solarc, the newer, more premium option, we have the Fortress eForce 19.2. This would be maybe a little more apples to apples kilowatt hour sizing. And we're looking at 20.5 grand for that arrangement there. Similar to Solarc, we have Fortress, which are a bit more cost competitive comparing to the Solarc 8K and the Fortress 8K. It looks like it's basically the same cost. And then I think we would end up with also the same cost on those eForces too. So yeah, real similar in pricing between these two guys. Solus is another pretty popular option that offers the Soluna 15 kilowatt hour battery. So it's not going to be apples to apples, but another alternative you could look at there that brings your cost down under 15 grand for a 15 kilowatt hour system there. So there's a few of the direct comparison or maybe apples to oranges comparisons that you could do with our tool there for a grid tie and a battery backup system. Now I'm going to jump over to some user submitted questions. And if you have any questions that you want to submit, put them in the Q&A here and I'll get to those as well. All right, we have full screen there. All right, getting started. So we have from Mike, what kind of projects are best suited for the design and quote tool? Rooftop, ground mount, DIY? So you'll see as you click through the tool, we definitely offer the rooftop and ground mount options. And of course, we regularly sell to DIYers. I just want a disclaimer that be prepared, the ball's in your court. You're getting a bill of materials from us with quantities and pricing, but the onus is on you to go to your AHJ, make sure that you have squared away the site requirements to get that permit approved and that you do your homework to know how to get the system together. And lots of DIYers will generally have an electrician come out for that final commissioning step, those final commissioning steps. So make sure you have your support system lined up there to get that system finalized. Jessica, is this tool more for professionals or can homeowners use it too? Answer is definitely both. So installers like this tool, you can just have it on your phone when you're talking to a homeowner and they want a ballpark estimate. You could quickly get an idea of your costs for their specific arrangement and then give them a verbal quote real quickly based on those costs. So that's really handy. And then if you have multiple projects going at once, we can merge quotes and give you a combined advanced pricing on higher volume orders as well. And then of course, like I was showing for the homeowners, you can do all your cost comparisons to have a good idea of which type of system you want to go with and which selections you want pretty quickly compare all those different costs. So really like that aspect of the tool. All right, Carlos, I'm a roofer, but never installed solar before. Will this walk me through enough to be confident? So in my opinion, yes, this will, especially if you've been up on a roof and are familiar with roof systems. The racking portion of that should be pretty darn clear. Um, Installing on a comp shingle roof, it should be really straightforward. You'll have a bit of a learning curve with some of the other aspects of the system. So oftentimes we'll have roofing companies work with collaborate with electricians to then form their own solar companies. After a few installs, we see uh, these folks are generally through their learning curve and are onto higher volume orders. So yeah, definitely if you're in roofing and want to branch out, you're a general contractor and want to expand your portfolio, uh, I definitely encourage you to check out the tool and see if you'd be comfortable moving forward on it. It's worked for a number of folks, so it's been neat to see. Is it worth it for installers from J44? Definitely, we can work with you on pricing. We'll do price matches if you're getting volume quotes from other distributors. We're very competitive when it comes to Enphase, Solarc, Fortress, any energy storage, home grid. We'll work with you on pricing. If you're buying in volume, we have volume tiers for pallets and multiple pallets and truckloads. So, and then also for if you're getting into the installs and you're getting a few installs lined up, we can merge those quotes to consolidate the shipping costs and get you higher or the higher volume, lower pricing, advanced tiers, just right in with your quote numbers, and we can merge those quotes and work with you on that. All right, Lena, what info should I have ready before starting? Just my address or more? So I'll bump over to, let's see, there we are. This basic permit form would be a pretty extended version of all the details you would generally need. The main ones that you're going to want, just when you're looking at a ballpark of a system, is first know how much you can backfeed with your main panel, or talk to, I would just go talk to your AHJ and your power utility, see if they have a limit on either the kilowatts DC or kilowatts AC you can backfeed. And then with your AHJ, if you're putting it up on a roof, they're going to have setback requirements, how many feet from the edge of the roof and roof ridges for fire access. That will give you an idea of the physical and electrical size of the system you're shooting for. And then if you're looking for energy backup, I'm going to point out these other manufacturer tools. HomeGrid has a really basic one based on the usage per month, what you would need for off-grid, a partial offset, or emergency backup. So you can set in just kind of a design kilowatt hour per month usage and get an idea ballpark of what you're going to need for that battery to generally meet your needs. That being said, energy consumption, especially in a residential setting, varies 10x or more, even for all other parameters, your number of people, your house size, your location, and your environment. Before I was in solar in graduate school, I actually studied residential energy consumption, looking at US energy consumption data across the US, and it answer is really it depends when it comes to the amount of energy you need. It really depends on your usage patterns. It depends on your energy type. Solarc has this tool here that will go over each of these and give a ballpark uh, for each appliance you're going to need and how many kilowatt hours you're going to need to back that up. You also notice they have an ESS cost versus a smart loads ESS cost. So the industry is definitely shifting over towards when you're in a backup scenario, locking down that battery to only provide energy to the things that you actually want to spend that storage on. You're not necessarily going to want to back up a hot tub when a storm comes through and the power goes out, but you probably do want to back up your freezer, maybe some lighting, a car charger, some basic things to make sure you're okay in a backup scenario. So yeah, as you go through the tool here, I highly recommend also jumping over to the manufacturer's websites. They have a wealth of knowledge about the specific um, calculations and applications for each of their components. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's a long tangent to say have a general idea of your electrical and physical constraints for your system, and that will give you a more of a narrow target to compare options when you start. All right, Tom, can the tool adjust for things like shading or roof pitch? So this isn't a simulation tool. You're not going to get your energy production over a year calculated with this tool, but there are lots of tools that do that, including free ones like PV Watts and System Advisor Model through the NREL. So go over there and you can get a ballpark on your production. When it comes to shading, uh, definitely look at microinverters or optimizers if you're worried about partial shading affecting your array. We also can dive into Aurora on a case-by-case basis to get you a ballpark idea as well. All right, Josh, can I build in room for future expansion like EVs or batteries later on? So certainly, yeah, the nice thing about a lot of these systems is that you can add on additional modules, additional microinverters, additional batteries. Those can all be added on later. The EV charger can definitely be added on later as well. So you can start small and then grow as your needs increase. Ali, how does the tool decide which inverter panels or racking to use? So we enter the electrical characteristics and some compatibility characteristics under each of the items so that when you're making your selections, it's going to give you the recommended or compatible options. That being said, definitely go to the manufacturer's sites and also do your homework there to make sure that that bill of materials, that list of SKUs, and those quantities are matching what you're going to need for your project. We do on our tool, for instance, on the inverters page, microinverters, we do show like a DC to AC ratio. That's going to be kind of your main one when pairing a panel to the microinverter. Kind of what's your the optimal pairing is a common question, and it basically comes down to that DC to AC ratio. It can also be a little bit site specific as well. Yeah, racking, we basically use some standard assumptions from Iron Ridge and to build out the quantities there. But yeah, definitely go over to Iron Ridge if you want to double check your bill of materials and fine tune it for your specific site. All right, Eric, can I swap components or pick my preferred brands? So yeah, definitely if you have that quote, you can email in the quote PDF and we can modify if it's something we can source. If you already have your panels and you're getting them elsewhere, you can just deselect that on that start page there. Carlos, does a tool check compatibility and codes? So we show that DC to AC ratio. We recommend, we build that bill of materials based on manufacturer recommendations, but when it comes to the final bill of materials, definitely go on to uh, the permitting step, get Illumini to draft you that plan set, send that on to the HGA to make sure that it will pass your local area codes. Each HGA has a different set of codes, so it's not something that's feasible for us to build into our tool. And if you have any concerns about compatibility, just write in to us with your quote number. We can look over that bill of materials and let you know and weigh in with our insight. Brent, will everything I need down to the bolts and breakers be included in the quote? So not quite. We supply everything upstream in the PV system from the inverter. So or the IQ combiner in the instance of Enphase. But everything downstream of that feeding back to your panel, when it's cabling or disconnects, you're going to need to supply those main cables. And one of the main reasons for that is the type of disconnects and the cabling that you're going to need really varies depending on your specific system, and local electrical suppliers and electricians generally already have that ready to go, so we're not going to compete in those markets. All right, J44, can I input complex roof layouts with multiple arrays? So answer is yes, and sort of. So on the design tool, you have the option to add in multiple arrays, multiple rows in each array. You can change orientations. You can select the type of roof. However, if you need multiple types, so you have one section's comp shingle and one section's metal roof, what you're going to need to do is generate multiple quotes, one for each roof section, save those quotes, email in the PDFs, and we can merge those. Danny, does the tool account for NEC rapid shutdown, voltage drop, or wire sizing? So we offer rapid shutdown devices. N-phase microinverters have the RSDs built in, or when you're on the inverter step, you can see for string inverters, we have the rapid shutdowns or optimizers that also have that rapid shutdown requirement built into it as well. So those are covered under that step. If you need a DC disconnect, that's something you're going to need to source from a local electrical supply. But yeah, we generally provide the standard rapid shutdown options that are at the inverters portion of the arrays. Voltage drop, wire sizing, that comes down to permitting. We're not going to specify that for liability reasons. It depends on your DC and AC length of runs, and that's done in calculations from Illumini. So send in those links with your bill of materials to Illumini, and they will get you a single line diagram that will cover those. Omar, can I get a single line diagram or use this for permit submittals? Yep. So yeah, like I was mentioned previously, the great segue into the permitting there. Yeah, send that quote over to Illumini along with that permit form, and they will get you the draft of some riddles for you to send on to your HJ. Sophie, will it flag any design issues, or do you need to catch those myself? So the only thing it really will point out in the design tool is it'll calculate that DC to AC ratio. If the system is sized in a way that it can't calculate an inverter on the string inverters section, it'll have a little warning box there. But in the end, you're just getting a bill of materials with items and quantities. It's not going to show any warnings or disclaimers on the configuration. So write in if you have any questions, check with the manufacturers on their documents for some detailed technical answers there. This is something you got to watch carefully, and we got to be vigilant at that step. We're a distributor, we'll supply you the materials, but we're not necessarily doing engineering. We just have a tool that gives you a very quick and convenient way to get that bill of materials. Ordering, shipping availability. We have, are the prices and inventory shown live and accurate? So sometimes on our site, we'll show inventories when it's like a clearance item, we have limited availability. Write in if you have any questions about lead times or availability. The general answer is usually like 7 to 10 business days if it's something we need to restock on, although sometimes we have some supply chain weirdness. So check with us if you have a project deadline and need to make sure you're getting it on time. We'll do the best I can to work with you. We'll do the best we can to work with you. However, I would say that we're not like some other distributors that are vertically integrated and we'll get you stuff next day like Amazon, but we will save you money when you're looking as an installer to get the components at the best price in bulk. So if you can plan ahead for your projects and get in touch with us, I definitely recommend taking that route. Carlos, what if something I picked goes out of stock? Does the tool tell a replacement? So stock wise, that's not an issue. What is an issue is more of if something's discontinued, and we'll be proactive when something gets discontinued, is no longer available. We'll reach out. If we know that there's kind of a low inventory, we'll send out warnings to customers that have active designs. And if it's something that's out of stock, sometimes our team will write in if we know there's a long delay getting something. Otherwise, if something goes out of stock, it's usually 5-7 business days before a restock comes in. So it's not really an issue there. But that being said, make sure that you're working in advance on your project. You're not expecting you hit the buy button today and you have it tomorrow. Definitely plan ahead, write in if you have a project deadline so that we can go over the time frames and make sure that's going to meet your requirements. Lena, can I see shipping costs or timelines before I place the order? So yep, the shipping costs will come up on the checkout page or in your quotes. Timelines, yeah, just write in. A lot of times it's around 7 to 10 business days for something that might be out of stock. Otherwise, from our Texas warehouse, we get things shipped out 2-3 business days on average for freight shipments. Anonymous, should I have someone review my quote before ordering? Yeah, if you're unsure of anything, definitely write in and have us look it over. If you're a DIYer, we're probably also going to point you over to the manufacturer site as well, so that you're the ball's in your court. You're making sure that you have your head wrapped around the system before taking it on. We'll do the best we can to look over compatibility and things, but as far as your site-specific needs and how that system is going to ultimately be implemented, we definitely want to make sure you're well informed there. Tom, can RENVU help make sure this passes inspection in my area? So Alumni is really quick and effective at making those submittals. So we recommend using them. They submit or they generate the plan sets in a very standardized way that the AHJs are familiar with. So it should get quick. It should get a quick approval in general. All right, Mike, do I need to get permits or talk to my utility before clicking buy? So I would definitely recommend making sure that you have your ducks in a row before you commit to a system. We definitely don't want folks buying something that's overbuilt for what they'll actually get approved in their area. There could be some limitations when it comes to the rooftop array size, to the DC array size, or the backfeed amperage. So definitely check with your HJ. Make sure that you're within the constraints that they have in your area before you commit. Can I install this system myself, or do I need a licensed contractor? So I would say most of the physical install with the racking, getting the modules up there, generally a lot of our DIYers can handle all that. The section that I highly recommend working with someone on is the electrical, especially the final electrical commissioning. Get an electrician involved to stay safe, especially when it's not something you're familiar with. That being said, we do have a lot of retired general contractors and electricians that come through to do installs for their own homes or for their neighbors. So that does come up as well. Josh, does RENVU offer help with install questions or troubleshooting? We'll give you some basics, and we're generally going to point you towards the manufacturers because the manufacturers have so much knowledge, so much documentation out there. That's really a wealth. When there's kind of some gray area stuff that we've encountered before, we'll weigh in where we can, but the manufacturers are going to be really your primary source, especially when it comes to troubleshooting. Instructions, instruction manuals, spec sheets included with the order. So yeah, on that final page, neat new feature we have here is we have all of those docs compiled there, so you can download all of those and have them ready to go when it comes time to install. Okay, what are the biggest, most common mistakes to avoid with the tool? Say, don't get ahead of yourself and order something before you know it will work for your site in your area. We definitely don't want you to be overcommitted to something that might not work out. So that would be the biggest mistake that I've come across. And then some other mistakes I've seen, maybe, yeah, purchasing and expecting it the next day if you're an installer on a deadline. Definitely write in and get an idea of what our time frame's looking like with inventory and where stuff is in different warehouses to make sure that it'll work for your project time frame. And then, yeah, pay attention to that DC to AC wattage ratio on the microinverters, and write in if you have any questions about any of that. That's what our team's here to help you on when it comes to making those design selections. All right, Ali, any tips to avoid return hassles or restocking fees? So similarly, don't get ahead of yourself. Make sure you order what you are needing. It's some of this equipment is big and heavy, and it's going to be expensive to move back and forth. If you install it, we're not going to be able to take a return on anything. We do accept returns. We have a return policy. I think then 30 days there's a restocking fee, 60 days store credit. After 90 days, I don't think we take returns on that on a case by case basis. So yeah, just make sure you're ordering what you need so you don't have to deal with any returns. How do I know my system is sized right and it will meet my energy goals? That question, I point you back towards the sizing tools on Enphase and HomeGrid and SolarArc. They have really good calculators to get an idea of what your uh, power and storage needs will be for that energy. All right, so K11, what's a good way to sanity check my design before ordering? Similar to last question, definitely go check the manufacturer websites, make sure you have your head wrapped around it, and then also additionally email in if we can go over your system too to make sure it looks like there's no red flags, and include anything you might be thinking of. Maybe there's something specific with your project or your site that we're not aware of to watch for when we're looking over that design. Can I save my design and come back to it later? Yep. So on the design tool, you can, at the final page, get a link to share the quote, and that will actually save all the presets, which is handy if you just want to come back to it later. But if you do want a copy of the PDF and if you want us to easily be able to see it, go ahead and make that PDF by having that quote emailed to you. That'll be the easiest way to access that. All right, so let's see here. We have one Q&A popped up. Wondering if there's any insight on availability of the Enphase 10C battery. How likely would it be available in Q4 this year? That's a good question. I saw our team talking about it in the last week. I think it might be already available, but I'll need to double check on that. And we'll definitely make some announcements as we get it up on our site and have some offers on it. So thanks for asking that. All right. If there's no other questions, I can go ahead and wrap this up. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. This webinar is recorded. We'll send a link out to that shortly. And don't forget about that offer. As mentioned, on any order over 5K, you get 250 off. Any orders over 9.5, we do offer free shipping on as well. So definitely write in with your quotes if you have any questions or want those applied, and we'll be glad to help you out.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, Aris. See you.